There are only two things, creation and sleep. There is nothing if you go to sleep. You wake up and there is everything. If you learn to sleep while awake, you can just be a witness. The witness is behind the unfolding. It is not participating in the drama. That is the real truth. Warm welcome to Mystic World, Mystic Podcast with me. I am Sakshi Narendra. Among the greatest mystics of Christian tradition is Teresa of Avila. Born in Avila, Spain in 1515, Teresa is known as a reformer of monasticism. Living in a class based society, social class was preserved in monasteries. Those from wealthy families lived in monastic apartments with the best of amenities. Those from poor families lived in dormitories and engaged in physical labor in the monastery. Teresa's reform was to create small monastic communities where everyone lived as equals no matter the social class of their family. What Teresa is known most for today is her writings on mysticism. She wrote in the book of her life, the path of self knowledge must never be abandoned, nor is there on this journey a soul so much a giant that it has no need to return, often to the stage of an infant and suckling. What is absolutely necessary is attention without strain. When I observe myself, I am really forced to admit that every day I am the prisoner of 1,000 unsatisfied desires or desires whose satisfaction brings me no permanent bliss. So it seems to me that instead of endlessly running from one desire to another, it should be better to stop and examine the true nature of desire. If this investigation is successful, you will penetrate the nature of the true aim of all desire. What any desire really aims at is a state of non desire. This non desire is a state in which we demand absolute nothing. Thus, it is a state of extreme abundance of fullness. This fullness is revealed as being bliss and peace. You now know that you are really seeking nothing else but fullness and absolute peace. This fullness is witnessing consciousness. Now that you have understood the inner nature of your ultimate goal, you perceive that the ultimate goal is in fact not a goal, that is to say, an end towards which you strive, but that the ultimate state can only be the consequence of relaxing and letting go. Liberation is not to be obtained by collecting and accumulating, but by being rooted in a state of being which is truly ours and in which we live constantly without knowing it. Even if we wished for, we could not live for a single moment outside of this state. All the masters of spirituality have advocated to get stabilized in this experience, the experience of being a witness. All the else is nothing but a thought process. It is nothing more than the beliefs, ideas, and the images we have about ourselves, and so it is actually something completely imaginary. Ego is the movement of the mind towards objects of perception in the form of grasping and away from objects in the form of aversion. This fundamentally is all the ego is. This movement of grasping and aversion gives rise to a sense of separate me, apostrophe, and in turn the sense of me, apostrophe, strengthens itself this way. Don't make the ego into an identity to oppose. It's simply the impersonal arising of conditioning. It's just thought, it's just feeling. It has nothing to do with what you really are. Adya Shanti says, and I quote, meet the ego with absolute love, compassion, and patience. Do not indulge it or resist its appearance. Hold it in a loving embrace and let it unravel itself in the stillness of the heart. Let it show you what needs to be healed, the heart underneath the turmoil. Your presence is the healing agent. Your love, what allows it to dissolve. Regular practice of observing your thoughts, observing your feelings without being judgmental or reacting to the mind patterns. You are left with just being a witness. You no longer then try to change anything. You stop following your thought patterns. You are in state of judging, sitting, doing nothing. By watching, by looking, by seeing, but not reacting, you become witness. Meditation is not what you think. You sit in absolute silence and your mind starts going over all your movies. During that process, you become so familiar with the scripts you keep in your life that you end up getting sick of them. Then you realize that the person you think you are is nothing but a complicated script you spend most of your energy on. After a more thorough examination, you discover your personality disgusts you, and that's because it's not really you. If you feel terrified enough about that personality, you spontaneously allow it to fade away. And then, if you are lucky, you can experience yourself without the distortion of that personality. This experience is the experience of witnessing consciousness. That is the real truth.